The alarm woke Olivia right from a deep sleep. She sat up in her small room at the Europa Deep Space Monitoring Station, rubbing her eyes. The red light on her wall panel flashed with urgency. As commander of the United Earth Space Command's Emergency Response Division, she knew a red alert meant something serious. "Computer, what's happening?" she asked, already pulling on her uniform. "Unknown signal detected from the outer system. Signal pattern does not match any known human broadcast," the computer's voice replied. Olivia felt her heart beat faster. In her 15 years at the station, they had never received a confirmed signal of non-human origin. There had been false alarms, strange radio bursts from distant stars, and even a few pranks from bored miners in the asteroid belt. But something about this one felt different. She hurried down the curved hallway of the station. Europa Base had been built into the ice of Jupiter's moon, protected from the harsh radiation of the gas giant. The bare metal walls were cold to the touch as she made her way to the command center. When the doors slid open, she found the night crew gathered around the main console. Their faces were lit by the blue glow of screens. "What do we have?" Olivia asked, moving to the center of the room. Dr. Alan Martinez looked up from his screen. His eyes were wide with excitement or fear, maybe both. As the station's lead xenolinguist, he had spent his career preparing for this moment. "It came in about 20 minutes ago," he said, pointing to the waveform on his screen. "It's definitely artificial, and it's definitely not one of ours. Could it be some forgotten probe? Maybe something from the early colonization days?" Olivia asked. She had learned to be careful about jumping to conclusions. Alan shook his head. "No way. The signal structure is unlike anything in our databases, and it's coming from the Kuiper Belt, well beyond our farthest outposts." The room fell quiet. Everyone knew what this might mean. Is it just noise? Or is there a message? Olivia finally asked. "There's a pattern," Alan said. "But it will take time to decode. If it is a language, it's nothing like ours." "How long?" Alan ran a hand through his messy hair. "Days, maybe. Unless what? Unless they're trying to make it easy for us. Look at this repeating sequence here," he said, pointing to a section of the waveform. "It could be a mathematical pattern, a common basis for first contact protocols." Olivia straightened up, her mind racing. "I need to inform Earth Command. Keep working on this. If it's really what we think it is, we need to know what they're saying as soon as possible." For the next 3 days, the Europa station buzzed with activity. Additional specialists arrived from Earth and Mars via emergency transport. The signal continued, broadcasting on regular intervals, growing slightly stronger each time as if the source was moving closer. Alan barely slept. He worked with his team around the clock, running the signal through every decoding algorithm they had. On the 3rd day, Olivia found him staring at his screen with a strange look on his face. "We got it," he said quietly. "Or at least, we think we did." "What does it say?" she asked, feeling a chill run down her spine. "It's a distress call," Alan replied, his voice tight. "They call themselves the Vathrine. Their home system was destroyed when their sun went supernova. They're refugees, about 2 million of them on a fleet of ships, and they're dying." Olivia leaned against the desk for support. "Are you sure?" Alan nodded. "The message has been translated and confirmed by 3 separate systems. They've sent this same call to 17 nearby civilizations with spacefaring capability." 17? There are other species out there who could help them? Apparently. And that's the thing. According to this message, 16 have already refused to help. We're their last hope. The news spread quickly through the station and back to Earth. Within hours, the United Earth Council called an emergency session. Olivia attended via hologram from Europa, along with Alan and the station chief. The council chamber was filled, with representatives from every nation and colony in the human sphere. Fleet Admiral Gregory Thompson stood at the center, his weathered face grim as he addressed the assembly. "The alien fleet is approximately 8 weeks from total life support. Failure," he reported. "Their systems were designed for a journey of certain length, but damage from the supernova's radiation has caused cascading failures. They cannot reach any habitable system in time. And they're asking us for help?" asked the representative from the Mars colonies, skepticism clear in her voice. Why us? We're hardly the most advanced species if there are 16 others they contacted first. Alan stepped forward in the hologram. They didn't contact us last because we're least advanced. They contacted in order of proximity. We're actually the farthest away, which makes our task the most difficult. How do we know this isn't a trap? Asked another counselor. It could be an invasion force using a sympathy ploy. We've analyzed the signal thoroughly, Alan replied. The technical data they've shared about their ships and systems checks out, and our long-range scans have detected objects in the Kuiper Belt that match their description. They're out there, and they're in trouble. Admiral Thompson raised his hand for quiet. The question before this council is simple. Do we attempt a rescue mission? I must emphasize that such a mission would be dangerous. It would require our fastest ships and best crews. We would be diverting resources from our own security and development projects. The chamber erupted in debate. Some counselors argued that humanity had a moral obligation to help. Others maintained that the risk was too great, that the aliens might bring disease or conflict. After hours of discussion, the council voted. The decision was not unanimous, but the majority ruled. Humanity would answer the call. The next day, Captain Daniel Ross of the UESC Pathfinder received his orders. His ship was the newest and fastest in the fleet, designed for deep space exploration. Now it would become the lead vessel in a rescue mission unlike any in human history. Admiral Thompson made it clear during the briefing, this mission is entirely voluntary. No crew member will be forced to risk their lives for an unknown species. Yet, when the call went out, something remarkable happened. Not only did every single member of the Pathfinder's crew report for duty, but thousands of civilian engineers, medical personnel, and space workers volunteered as well. The response was so overwhelming that Mission Control had to create a selection system. Meanwhile, Alan and his team established a more direct communication link with the Vethrine fleet. The first visual contact revealed beings that looked nothing like humans. Their bodies seemed almost plant-like, with translucent skin that showed complex patterns of light flowing beneath. Yet their gestures conveyed emotions humans could understand. Relief, hope, and deep gratitude. Why? Asked the Vethrine ambassador through the newly established link. Why would you help us when all others turned away? Olivia, who had been appointed as the official human representative, thought about all the complex political, scientific, and historical factors that had led to the Council's decision. She thought about humanity's long journey to the stars, the hardships they had faced, the times they had nearly destroyed themselves, and the lessons they had learned. Her answer was simple. Because you needed help. In the control room of Europa Station, watching the human rescue fleet begin to assemble, in Earth orbit, Alan stood beside Olivia. Do you think we can really save them? He asked quietly. Olivia watched the ships on the display, each one representing hundreds of humans willing to risk everything for strangers from beyond the stars. I don't know, she admitted, but we're going to try. That's what humans do. Captain Daniel Ross stood at the wide viewport of the UESC Pathfinder's bridge. Earth grew smaller behind them, a blue marble shrinking against the black of space. After 2 weeks of frantic preparation, they were finally underway. He still couldn't quite believe how quickly everything had happened, from the first alien signal to now leading the most important mission in human history. Beautiful, isn't it? Said a voice beside him. Daniel turned to see engineer Samantha, Peterson joining him at the viewport. She had dark circles under her eyes. Like most of the crew, she had barely slept during the preparations. I've seen Earth from space a dozen times, Daniel said, but it never gets old. This time is different, though, Samantha replied. This time we're not just exploring, we're representing all of them. She nodded toward the blue planet. Daniel nodded. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on him. 2 million alien lives depended on their success. How are the models coming? He asked, changing the subject to their work. Samantha pulled up a holographic display from her wrist device. Complex diagrams of unfamiliar systems rotated slowly above her arm. Kandike, Fathrine life support systems are like nothing we've ever seen, she explained. They use biological systems merged with technology. Plants that generate oxygen but also process and filter waste. Living metals that conduct energy and repair themselves. Can we fix them? Daniel asked directly. Samantha's face grew serious. Honestly, I don't know. We understand the basic principles: oxygen generation, waste processing, thermal regulation. Those are universal needs, but their specific solutions are so different from ours. An alert chimed and Lieutenant Eric Jackson's voice came over the comm system. Captain Ross, we've made progress with the translation software. You might want to see this. In the ship's communication center, Eric and his team had been working around the clock to improve their ability to talk with the Vathrine. What had started as simple mathematical exchanges had grown more complex each day. We've been learning more about their culture, Eric explained as Daniel and Samantha entered the room. And it explains a lot about why they're in this situation. He pulled up recordings of their exchanges with the Vathrine representative, a being they had come to know as Elder Zin. The alien's translucent skin pulsed with patterns of light as it spoke, a secondary form of communication their software couldn't yet interpret. The Vathrine evolved as symbionts, Eric explained. No individual can survive alone. Their entire civilization is built on mutual dependency. That's why they can't understand why the other species refuse to help them, added Maya Patel, a xenoanthropologist who had joined the mission. The concept of refusing aid to those in need is literally incomprehensible in their culture. Daniel frowned. But they must have conflict, competition. Every species does. Maya shook her head. Not like we do. Their conflicts are more like disagreements within a single organism about which direction to grow. They literally cannot survive without helping each other. So when the 16th species they contacted refused help, Daniel began. They nearly gave up hope, Eric finished. They sent the message to Earth as a final, desperate attempt. They never expected a response. As the days passed and the Pathfinder pushed deeper into the outer solar system, more ships joined their rescue fleet. The UESC Horizon, a massive colony ship that had been preparing for its maiden voyage to Proxima Centauri, had been diverted to their mission. Its huge habitation rings could potentially house thousands of Vathrine refugees. 5 supply ships, 3 medical frigates, and a dozen smaller vessels formed a fleet unlike anything humanity had assembled before, not for war or colonization, but purely to save lives. 1 month into their journey, they began receiving detailed scans of the Vathrine ships. The images appeared on the main screen of the Pathfinder's bridge, causing a hush to fall over the crew. The alien vessels were enormous, each one at least twice the size of the largest human ships. Their hulls looked almost organic, with sweeping curves and structures that branched like trees. Most striking was the faint glow that pulsed across their surfaces, bioluminescent patterns flowing like rivers of light. But those lights were dimming. According to the data, life support was already failing on several vessels. Thousands of Vathrine had been moved to dangerously overcrowded central ships. They're running out of time faster than we thought, Samantha said, studying the readings. At this rate, the first ships will lose life support completely before we reach them. Daniel turned to his communication officer. Send a message to the Vathrine. Tell them to prioritize evacuating the most damaged ships, and ask if they can reduce life support in non-essential areas to redirect resources. The good news, said Dr. Nathan Rivera, the fleet's lead medical officer, is that the atmospheric composition they need isn't too different from ours. Higher nitrogen content, slightly more moisture. We could adapt sections of our ships to house them temporarily, if needed. They were 40 days into their journey when disaster struck. The Pathfinder had just passed the orbit of Neptune when a massive radiation burst from a nearby pulsar hit the fleet. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems overloaded. Primary, drive is down, reported the engineering officer. Cooling systems failing in Section 4. Daniel grabbed the comm. All ships, report status. One by one, the other vessels checked in. Most had suffered minor damage, but the Pathfinder had taken the brunt of the radiation. Without repairs to the primary drive, they would have to slow down. adding precious days to their journey that the Vathreen did not have. "We have to fix it now," Daniel said grimly. "How bad is the radiation in Section 4? "Bad," Samantha replied, checking the sensors. "Anyone who goes in there will be exposed to dangerous levels. The auto repair systems can't handle it alone." "Chief." Engineer Keith Johnson stood up from his station. "I'll go." "Keith, the radiation levels," Samantha started. "I know the levels," he interrupted. "I also know I can fix it faster than anyone else. We don't have a choice." Daniel looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Take all possible precautions. Get in, fix it, get out." 3 hours later, Keith and his team emerged from the radioactive section. The drive was repaired, but the engineers had absorbed concerning doses of radiation. As the medical team treated them, Daniel visited Keith in the med bay. "Why did you volunteer?" Daniel asked quietly. "You knew the risk." Keith's face was pale, but he managed a small smile. "I've got nieces and nephews back home. If they were lost in space, I'd want someone to go get them too." The Pathfinder resumed its journey at full speed. 2 days later, they received a new message from the Vathreen. Elder Zin's image appeared on the main screen, the lights under its skin pulsing weakly. "Our deepest gratitude for your continued approach," the translation software rendered. "We have consolidated our people onto fewer ships as suggested. But we face a new problem. Our atmosphere processors are failing faster than predicted." "How long?" Daniel asked. "At current rates, 7 of our largest ships will lose breathable atmosphere within 5 days. Daniel looked at the navigation display. They were still 6 days away at maximum speed. "We'll find a way," he promised, though he wasn't sure how. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He wandered to the observation deck where, to his surprise, he found Maya studying the latest transmissions from the Vathreen. "Something interesting?" he asked. She nodded. "They sent us music, or what passes for music in their culture. It's fascinating. Listen." She played the recording. It wasn't what humans would call music. It was more like patterns of sound, rising and falling tones that overlapped and intertwined. "Our xenolinguists think this is how they share complex emotions," Maya explained. "This particular piece is meant to express gratitude and hope." Daniel listened, feeling something stir within him. These beings, so different from humans in almost every way, could still create beauty, could still hope. "We're going to save them," he said with fresh determination. "No matter what it takes." As he returned to his quarters, Daniel thought about Earth, now just a tiny point of light behind them. Humanity had fought wars, faced plagues, weathered disasters. But this, reaching across the darkness of space to help a dying species they had never met. This might be their greatest achievement yet, and they still had so far to go. After 42 days of pushing their engines to the limit, the human fleet finally reached the edge of the Kuiper Belt, where the Vathreen ships waited. The sight that greeted them left everyone on the Pathfinder's bridge, speechless. 200. Massive vessels drifted in a tight formation against the backdrop of stars. Each Vathreen ship was shaped like a giant seed pod, with a rounded central body and long extensions that curved outward like petals. Their hulls glowed with faint blue and green patterns that pulsed weakly, like the heartbeat of a dying animal. "My God," whispered Daniel as he stared at the main view screen. "They're beautiful. And dying," added Samantha, looking at the sensor readings. "Those light patterns are their power systems. They're barely functioning." Daniel straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Open a channel to Elder Zin." The alien's image appeared, on screen. Up close, they could see the Vathreen's delicate features more clearly. Elder Zin had no eyes that they could recognize, but patches of more transparent skin seemed to serve a similar purpose. Its body was covered in small leaf-like structures that moved gently, as if in a breeze no one else could feel. "We have arrived," Daniel said simply. "We're here to help." The patterns of light beneath Elder Zin's skin brightened momentarily. "Your arrival brings life to our people," the translation came through. "We feared you would not reach us in time." "We need to begin immediately," Daniel replied. We'll send over our medical and engineering teams to assess the situation. Dr. Lisa Murray, head of the medical team, had prepared for this moment for weeks. As a xenobiologist, she had studied the limited data on Vathrine physiology, but nothing compared to seeing them in person. She was the first human to set foot on the Vathrine command ship, stepping from the airlock of her shuttle into an environment unlike anything she had experienced. The air was thicker than Earth's, with a sweet smell like cinnamon and rain. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently with the same light patterns they had seen from outside. The floor felt slightly springy beneath her boots. 5 Vathrine waited to greet her. They were taller than humans, with slender bodies that swayed slightly as they moved. Lisa noticed that they stayed connected to each other through thin, vine-like appendages that extended from their arms. "Welcome," said one, the translation coming through Lisa's earpiece. "I am Healer Vren. We have many sick ones for you to see." Lisa followed the Vathrine deeper into their ship. The corridors widened into a vast central chamber where hundreds of aliens lay on raised platforms. The air here was noticeably worse, thicker and with an acrid undertone that made Lisa's eyes water, despite her protective gear. "Their life support is failing fastest in the areas with the most people," she reported back to the Pathfinder. "They've gathered their sickest here to share what little good air they have left, but it's making everyone worse." Back on the Pathfinder, Daniel called an emergency meeting with the mission leaders. "We need a new plan," he said. "We can't fix all their ships in time." "What if we don't try to?" suggested Samantha. She had spent hours examining the Vathrine technology. "What if we focus on saving the people instead of the ships?" Her idea was bold. Rather than attempting to repair all 200 Vathrine vessels, they would evacuate as many aliens as possible onto the human ships. The remaining Vathrine would be consolidated onto their 30 most functional ships, which the human engineers would then modify using parts salvaged from the abandoned vessels. "It could work," said Daniel, studying the plan. "But we'll need to move fast, and we'll need the Vathrine to agree." To everyone's surprise, Elder Zinn accepted the proposal immediately. "Our vessels are precious to us," the alien leader explained. "They are grown, not built, over many generations. But they are just shells. Our people are what matters." The largest, human vessels began taking on refugees. The UESC Horizon, with its massive habitation rings, was adapted to house nearly 10,000 Vathrine in spaces originally designed for future human colonists. Samantha made a critical discovery while working inside one of the Vathrine ships. "Their air isn't just running out," she explained to Daniel over the comm. "It's being poisoned. Their waste processing systems failed weeks ago, and the biological waste is building up, creating toxic compounds." "Can we fix it?" Daniel asked. "Not with their technology," Samantha replied, "but maybe with ours." She paused, thinking. "Our water purification systems, we could adapt them to process the Vathrine biological waste." Lieutenant Simon Baker found another solution. "The radiation shielding from our ship's outer hulls," he suggested during a planning session. "We could temporarily remove it and install it on the Vathrine vessels. It would leave our ships exposed, but if we position ourselves to shield each other, it's risky," Daniel said. "Less risky than letting 2 million people die," Simon replied. For the next 3 weeks, humans and Vathrine worked side by side in a race against time. Human shuttles moved constantly between ships, ferrying people and equipment. Engineers, in protective suits, cut into the hulls of abandoned Vathrine vessels, salvaging still-functioning parts to repair the chosen 30. The work was exhausting and dangerous. The failing Vathrine ships were unstable, with unpredictable power surges and areas of toxic atmosphere. Several human crew members suffered injuries, and one engineer was badly burned when a power conduit exploded. Yet no one complained. No one asked to return to the safety of Earth. Instead, they worked longer shifts, pushing themselves to the limit of endurance. 2 weeks into the operation, a crisis erupted on one of the Vathrine refugee ships. A structural support had failed, causing an entire section to begin breaking apart. Evacuation was underway, but sensors detected a single life sign trapped in a collapsed corridor, a Vathrine child. Ensign Michelle Cooper was the closest human to the area. The young security officer had been helping with the evacuation when the alert came through. "The atmosphere in that section is toxic," warned her team leader over the comm. "Your suit isn't rated for full protection. Wait for the hazmat team." Michelle looked at the scanner in her hand, showing the faint life sign flickering beyond the debris. The hazmat team was at least 15 minutes away. "The child doesn't have 15 minutes, she said. And before anyone could stop her, she forced her way through the narrow gap in the wreckage. The air beyond was thick with greenish fog, the toxic byproduct of the failing systems. Michelle's suit filters strained to cope, warning lights flashing on her wrist display. She pushed forward, following the scanner's direction. She found the child huddled in a small maintenance alcove. Unlike adult Vathrine, the child had brighter skin, almost translucent, with light patterns that pulsed rapidly in what Michelle guessed was fear. "It's okay," she said, knowing the child couldn't understand her words but hoping her tone would help. "I'm here to help you." She lifted the small alien carefully and turned back toward the exit. The toxic fog was thicker now, and her vision was beginning to blur. Warning alarms beeped frantically on her suit as the filters reached capacity. Michelle staggered the last few meters to the airlock, passing the child to waiting hands before collapsing to her knees. Medical teams rushed her to the Pathfinder's sickbay, where she lay unconscious, her lungs damaged by the toxic exposure. Word of her bravery spread quickly through both fleets. As the human doctors worked to save her, something unexpected happened. Dozens of Vathrine gathered outside the medical bay, their bodies connected in a circle. They began to hum in unison, creating vibrations that humans could feel through the deck plates. "What are they doing?" Daniel asked Elder Zinn. "Healing harmonics," the alien leader explained. "It is how we repair our own sick ones. The vibrations encourage cells to mend." "But she's human," Daniel said. "Her biology is completely different from yours." Elder Zinn's light patterns shifted, in what they had come to recognize as the equivalent of a smile. "Life is life, Captain. The patterns are different, but the song is the same." To everyone's amazement, Michelle began to recover more quickly than the doctors had predicted. Whether it was the Vathrine harmonics or human medicine or simply her own resilience, no one could say for certain. As she woke, the young ensign found her room filled with strange, beautiful plants, gifts from the Vathrine, living things grown from their own bodies as expressions of gratitude. "Why did you risk yourself for one of our children?" a Vathrine parent asked her later. Michelle thought about it, then gave the same simple answer that Olivia Wright had given weeks before. Because help was needed. It was the moment when both species truly began to understand each other. 6 months after the first distress signal had reached Earth, the combined fleet began its long journey home. 30 Vathrine vessels, now repaired and strengthened with human technology, moved in formation alongside the human ships. The soft glow of their hulls was stronger now, pulsing with a steady rhythm that spoke of renewed life. Captain Daniel Ross stood on the observation deck of the Pathfinder, watching as the stars seemed to stream past. They were traveling much, slower than during their desperate race to reach the Vathrine, but there was no need for haste now. The crisis had passed. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain?" Dr. Lisa Murray joined him at the viewport. In the months since the rescue began, her red hair had grown longer, and new lines had appeared around her eyes from countless hours of work. "I was just thinking about our original plan," Daniel said. "We were going to escort the Vathrine to Proxima Centauri, help them set up a colony there, and then go our separate ways." Lisa smiled. "Plans change." They did indeed. What had started as a simple rescue mission had evolved into something much more complex and interesting. No one had predicted how quickly humans and Vathrine would begin to learn from each other. In Mythur, the medical bay of the Pathfinder, Dr. Patricia Wells bent over a microscope studying a sample of Vathrine tissue. As the xenobiologist who had spent the most time studying their physiology, she had made a series of remarkable discoveries. "It's incredible," she told Daniel during her daily report. "The compounds we thought were waste, the stuff that was poisoning their ships, turns out to be incredibly useful. When processed through our modified algae tanks, it produces something similar to a high-energy fuel. How high energy? Daniel asked. Patricia's eyes sparkled with excitement. High enough to improve our fusion drives by nearly 40%. The test results just came back from engineering. Similar breakthroughs were happening all over the fleet. Human fiber optic technology, integrated into Vathrine neural networks, allowed their ship systems to respond with unprecedented speed and adaptability. In return, the Vathrine showed humans how to create living systems that could regenerate and adapt. It's like they're the ultimate biologists and we're the ultimate engineers, Samantha explained during a staff meeting. Their technology grows and adapts, but it lacks resilience. Ours is tough and reliable, but requires constant maintenance and replacement. Not everyone back on Earth was happy about these developments. As the fleet approached the edge of the solar system, Daniel received a message from Fleet Admiral Thompson. "There's debate in the council," Thompson said, his face serious on the screen. "Some representatives are concerned about bringing an alien species with unknown biology to Earth. They're pushing for the Vathrine to establish a colony elsewhere." Daniel frowned. "The Vathrine aren't a threat, Admiral. They're refugees who need a home." "I know that," Thompson replied, "and most of the council knows it too. But fear is a powerful force." For several tense days, the future of the Vathrine remained uncertain. The human fleet continued its approach to Earth, while politicians and security experts debated what to do. The tipping point came unexpectedly. During a routine communication between ships, a junior engineer named Ryan Butler was talking with his Vathrine counterpart about their homeworlds. The Vathrine, named Trill, asked if humans ever felt connected to their planet the way Vathrine had connected to theirs. Ryan thought about the forests near his childhood home in Oregon, the smell of pine trees after rain, the sound of waves crashing on the Pacific coast. "Yes," he said, "we feel connected. Maybe not the same way you did, but Earth is part of us." "Then you understand our loss," Trill said. The lights beneath its skin dimmed slightly, what humans had come to recognize as sadness. The conversation was recorded as part of standard procedure and included in the daily report sent back to Earth. When the council members saw it, many changed their minds. Here was proof that despite their alien biology and culture, the Vathrine understood something fundamentally human: the love of home. 3 days later, Admiral Thompson sent a new message. "The United Earth Council has voted," he said, his stern face breaking into a rare smile. "They're offering the Vathrine Sanctuary." A region of the asteroid belt had been designated for the Vathrine settlement. There they could rebuild their civilization while learning to adapt to a new solar system. Earth's asteroid belt was rich in the minerals they needed, and far enough from Earth to satisfy those still concerned about unknown biological interactions. When Daniel shared the news with Elder Zinn, the Vathrine leader's skin glowed with such brightness that the humans in the room had to shield their eyes. "Your people's generosity continues to amaze us," Elder Zinn said. "First you save our lives, then you offer us a home." As they approached Earth orbit, Daniel received one more surprising message from Admiral Thompson. "The Council has another proposal," Thompson said. "They want to formalize an alliance with the Vathrine, a partnership to explore space together." The idea made perfect sense. The newly created human Vathrine hybrid technology was superior to what either species had developed alone. Ships using both technologies could travel faster, survive harsher conditions, and sustain life more efficiently than anything previously imagined. "We'd like to start with a joint mission to the Alpha Centauri system," Thompson explained. "A human Vathrine crew, using the best of both our technologies." On the day the fleet reached Earth orbit, Elder Zinn requested a private meeting. With Daniel, Lisa, Samantha, and the other key members of the rescue mission, the Vathrine leader looked different now. The once frail, dimly glowing being had regained strength. The leaf-like structures on its body had grown fuller, and the light patterns beneath its skin flowed with steady, confident rhythms. "Before our first representatives go down to your world," Elder Zinn said, "I wish to share something with you." The alien held out what looked like a small seed. glowing with the same bioluminescence as their ships. This is a memory seed, Elder Zin explained. It contains the complete history of our journey, from the destruction of our home, through the rejections by other species, to your brave rescue and generosity. The seed pulsed in Elder Zin's hand, casting soft blue light across their faces. We will plant it in our new home in your asteroid belt. It will grow into a memory tree, alive and aware, that will tell our story to future generations. Elder Zin's voice grew solemn. For generations, our people believed we were alone in a cold universe. When disaster came, we reached out without hope, finding rejection until Earth answered. You did not help us because we had something to offer. You helped because it was the right thing to do. The Vathrine leader placed the seed in a small container and handed it to Daniel. This is our promise to you and your world. Should Earth ever send a distress call into the darkness of space, the Vathrine will answer. Today we do not arrive as refugees, but as friends who have seen the best of humanity. That afternoon, the first shuttle of Vathrine diplomats descended toward Earth. On the observation deck of the Pathfinder, Olivia Wright, who had traveled from Europa to witness this moment, stood beside Daniel. They watched the shuttle shrink to a bright point against the blue curve of the planet. This is why we went to space, she said quietly. Not just to explore, but to find each other. Daniel nodded, thinking of all that had happened since that first signal had reached Europa, the desperate race across the solar system, the weeks of exhausting work, the moments of danger and discovery, the bonds formed between two species who had never known of each other's existence until disaster brought them together. The Vathrine refugee crisis marked a turning point in human history, the moment when humanity realized that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their resilience, but their compassion. And across the galaxy, other civilizations took note. Humans would answer when called. As news of the rescue spread through the 16 other species who had refused to help, many reconsidered their policies of isolation. Some sent cautious messages of greeting to Earth. Others simply watched from afar, wondering what kind of civilization would risk so much for strangers. And in the asteroid belt, as the Vathrine began to build their new home, the memory seed took root and began to grow. Its branches reached outward like the arms of a galaxy, each one glowing with the light of remembered stars. At its core, pulsing with steady blue radiance, was the memory of a simple phrase that had changed the fate of an entire species: because you needed help.